What's going on, YouTube world? It's your boy Folarin Reek. Welcome to another episode of Finesse with Folarin. Today, we're going to talk about part 2. It's finally here, y'all. Part 2 of the self-love. Today, we're going to talk about self-care, pros and cons, what it means, how it's important for you to have that in your life, have people around you support yourself, and people support you. And we're going to talk about today also how Biden is finessing schools to open and the pros and cons with that. Other than that, hit that intro. We back, y'all. First, let's talk about this, how Biden and Democrats are finessing schools open back up. So far today in the report, children now accounted for 22% of U.S. COVID cases. Crazy. School ain't even been open for a full 24 hours everywhere, and we already got 22% of the cases. So let's get into it. The number of children contact COVID-19 in the U.S. is much lower than the record highest set at the start of the new year. But children now accounting for more than a fifth of new coronavirus cases, states that released data by age. According to the American Academy of Pediatrics, it is a statistic that may surprise many. Just a year ago, children COVID-19 cases made up around 3% of the U.S. total. On Monday, the APP children represented 24.4% of new cases reported past week, accounting for the 71,649 out of the 319,600 cases. The last report, drawn from the data collected through April 29, illustrates how children's share of the coronavirus is affected as growth in recent weeks. That's crazy. Went from that's crazy. 71,649 to 319,901 cases in a matter of months. That's deep. Experts link the trend to several factors, particularly high vaccination rates among older Americans. The U.S. recently announced 100 million people were fully vaccinated against COVID-19, but the other dynamics also in play for new COVID-19 variants to loosen of restrictions on schools' activities. People, come on now. Like, what are we doing? Government, what are y'all doing? We not. I can't understand. To me, I understand you pushing the world to be open, and that's what's up. But until we fully solve this issue, but it's important for kids to have their education. I respect that. Well, what cost though? It's also worth not for that vast majority of the pandemic. The age group, the highest cases rates has been 18 to 24 in the U.S. As the Centers for the Disease Control Prevents notes to get a sense of what behind the rising proportion in cases in children. We spoke Dr. Sean O'Leary, Vice Chairman of the APP Committee on Infectious Diseases. O'Leary also is a professional pediatric at the University of Colorado Medical Campus, Children's Hospitals, Colorado. The interview has been edited for length and clarity. Question 1, they ask. Does it surprise you the kind of numbers we're seeing for children right now? Larry's words. Well, yes and no. I don't think there are several things going on. One, of course, and the new variants that are including this B117 variety is really becoming dominant in a lot of countries and more transmittable. I think the jury is still a bit on if more serves. It's not clear if the partly more transmissible in kids, but at this point, it appears it's just more transmittable in everyone, including kids. It's not bad. Certainly, vaccination is playing a role in terms of changing in the demographics of who's getting infected. In many parts of the country, depending on how states track their data, 60 and older, 65 and older, 70 and older, very high potential of those populations in some places have been vaccinated. We have seen a dramatic drop in proportion of these cases that happen in those individuals, which is great news, but that just by simply math is going to change the proportion of cases that are happening in the other demographics. Question 2. In terms of raw numbers, the worst stretch of coronavirus infections for children was in a 13-week stretch, from early November to February. The numbers fell as the U.S. extended its end of the year wave, but since around the mid-March, children coronavirus cases have not fallen the same rate as adult cases. Larry says, we're seeing more outbreaks than we had related to schools and schools activities. We're seeing those all along. We're seeing a little bit more than those populated that we had. I think also due to the comfortable of infections against the various, but also more kids in the last couple of months are in the person's school than they have been prior months. With immigration measures in places as schools, it still appears the transmission is much lower than it is surrounding community, but you have a surge in the surrounding community. It's inevitable that you're going to see it in schools. The other thing is we're seeing more outbreaks in school-related activities, particularly sports and indoor sports in particular. So, you telling me my sons can't play basketball? Or you telling me they can't play football? Just said, damn sports, huh? Straight BS, man. Straight BS. As older portions of the popularity get vaccinated, we're still seeing circulation. It's just stand to reason that the kids who are not eligible for vaccines yet are going to make up large shares of the pie. I mean, the hopes of the overall pie itself gets smaller. The number of infections overall, but yeah, it is circulating. It's going to hit the people that are most vulnerable, which are the people who have not been vaccinated. Now we're talking about good news. Let's hear this. Now, the good news is we may, in the coming weeks, have vaccinated approved down to the age of 12. We don't have any official dates on that yet. Maybe soon. Professor substanced their data of the FDA last month, so that it could be a bigger game changer because we all know that the ascendants tend to be both more likely to get infected, to spread the infection related to the young kids, so we could get the vacated also to make a difference in these dynamics. I think it could make a big difference for a lot of families' summer plans. That's what's up. Appreciate it. So that means, I could go make that trip to Florida. And then I could have my show, I'll put Finesse in with Folarin in Miami, Stay tuned for that. Question 4. We should note that the kids represented a small population portion of the worst cases outcome. Should we? Larry says, yeah, that's true. A somewhat nuisance conversation, though. In Michigan, they have been reportedly high rates of hospitalizations in the kids they have been. Unclear to me that it simply represents intensive transmission versus or actually increase. Certainly, I think that the note entirely clear, yet here in Colorado, we have a little surge going on. In most states, actually, cases are going down. We're still kind of in a platoon. Maybe increases, but a bit here in Colorado. We have seen a slight uptick of kids hospitalized with COVID-19 here at Children's Hospital, but it's not dramatically so. not like what we were seeing in November, December, and January. Yeah, that's a lot. Now that the part of the conversation about services gets a little bit more complicated, is yes, it's absolutely true that less serve in kids, and this is in adults, particularly older adults, but it's also not true to say that the completely began in kids. Fortunately, pediatric death is fairly rated because fairly event. But when you look at the top of 10 causes of death, an annual bias, this year we have depend on whose numbers you use. Somewhere between 300 and 600,000 pediatric deaths of COVID-19 so far. This is a probably an undercount that would fit somewhat in the top 10, where we've been like number 6 and number 9 in terms of causes of death for children. Damn, that's deep. So the point I'm making is that is yes, it's a less served, but it's still potentially a very cerebral disease. We've seen tens of thousands of hospitalizations already, so we do need a vaccination for children, not just protecting, not just achieving herd immunity, but also protecting the children themselves. Question 5. What about long COVID? Are kids showing extended months of symptoms for the disease? Good question. Good question. In kids, we have seen it, but it doesn't seem to be as common as adults. We're taking a few kids now who have still having symptoms well over a month past in their infections. I think as little as we know about long COVID in adults, we even know less in kids. We have had even lesser of an understanding for the overall epidemiologically of how common it is in kids. The other question mark in my mind around this phenomenon is many viruses can trigger short, long-term symptoms. A classic example would be mononucleosis. Some kids will have fatigue and symptoms for 6 to 12 months. Damn, that's a long time. Occasionally even longer. So what is unclear to me at this point, if a long-term symptoms were more frequent with COVID-19 than some other than viruses we've seen, but I would say that we seeing short of an epidemic of long COVID kids than we have in adults. That's deep. That's deep. 6 to 12 months? Sheesh. See, it's that new virus. It's that new wave of sickness. I remember a cold lasted me no longer than a week, if that. Doing now I got a strong, immune system. Gotta keep it up there. Which I recommend people to go get a coffee bean. You know what I mean? It's a good supplement. Helps you. I take 2 a day. It helps me digestive system, smaller appetite, Vitamin B, vitamin C, vitamin D, ginseng in it. It got ginger, which is definitely also good for your body. Excuse me, let's get back to it. How difficult is getting to get data on children with COVID-19? I know that is the weekly reports. The American Academy of Pediatrics and Children Hospitals Association compiled data from 49 states, along with New York, Puerto Rico, the District of Columbia, Ghana, that leaves out the rest of New York State and Texas. Only reports on lower age range for a small percentage of the state cases. O'Reilly says, that's correct. There have been problems with our data around the pandemic all along, including this particular situation. I think as long as you compare apples to apples, recognizing the limitations, I think that you can interpretate the data. But yeah, it's clearly unaccounted. See how they finesse this real quick? They've been finessing this virus since the virus been out. But y'all, you know what I mean? You want to send kids back to school? It's crazy. Wake up, people. Stay tuned. You gotta wake up. Gotta wake up. Gotta wake up. All right. It's like a gift and a curse to take your kids back to school. And it's funny because my daughter started yesterday. You know what I mean? Like, my son been going to school. Like, it's guilt because, you know, we're in Pennsylvania, so the cases out here has not been as much as been other, but I still feel frightened for my kids. You know what I mean? You know. Another question. Standardized data about COVID-19 across the states has been pretty hard to get. From early on, it seems like the Centers of Disease Control and Prevention and other federal agencies did not comprehensively sanitize the different data that was out there. You know, Riley says, yeah, I mean, it's been a frustration through the pandemic. It's kind of shocking to me, frankly, even though I kind of worked in this field for a long time, that the APP hasn't really been source of the pandemic through much of the pandemic for the U.S. and the APP, big organization, but we have a fairly small research shop. It was the APP that was compiling this data. I absolutely adore my colleagues from the CDC, and they have really done a immaculate work on this pandemic. But they have so many things they have to deal with related to the pandemic, crisis after crisis with adults, than just to have the capability at the time to be able to track the kids who we are. And we know, as we know, less several affected. You know, kids are the future, so you know what I mean? It's just much as important for us to be out there for the kids because they are going to support us when we go. So it's important that the CDC and the APP need to keep doing their job and press the button on the kids. You know, adults, we could be able to take care of ourselves when we have conscious mind, but kids, you know, who really can't take care of themselves at a young age, they have to be prioritized first. You know what I mean? So, what else people understand about children in a COVID-19 pandemic? O'Reilly's answers. We have been answering these questions about the children and infections for almost a year, I guess. We've seen all along that what is happening in children simplified reflects on what's going on in the surrounding community. It is not really driven on what's going on in the surrounding community, and I think that still is the case. You know, there are lots of cases happening in given states. There are going to be a lot of cases in kids, but it's not to say that the kids are driving those numbers. And I think that although we have seen increases in proportion of kids, I think that is still true. Question. Traditionally, people think children sharing viruses among each other and then give it to the adults. And this seems a dynamic also in their inverse. It's a strange virus, isn't it? And that's the report. You know what I mean? My expert opinion on it for me is that, like I said, we need to prioritize the kids. People need to go get vaccinated. I know it's 50-50. Me personally, I believe it's a hoax, but we gonna leave it at that on that note for that. Another time, another episode on that. Now we can get in today with the main idea of part 1 of self-love. Why is self-love important? If you don't know, love yourself, you can't give real love to others because you don't understand what you are giving out, and you're only giving out what people are telling you and showing you without thought from self. Example, if you grew up without any models for self-love or anyone who talked about the importance of being good to yourself, you might question its value. Value is self-important because it brings out love, your mindset, and your place about in the world. Without self-value to yourself, there is no self-love for yourself. And without self-love, you're likely to be highly self-critical and fall into people-pleasing and perfectionism. You're more likely to tolerate abuse or mistreated from others. And that's deep. It's very important, man. You know, A lot of people, especially now these days, in this day of form, has not understand that self-love is the best love you can give. You know, it's really powerful because it comes from you. You can't, for example, I can't go to someone and say, hey, let me take your self-love, because that means I'm taking themselves. You know, people in relationships, they say, well, you know, I love my spouse. I love them more than I love myself. No one can love you more than you love yourself. Except God. That's it. Only person. So anybody in human form that says that, bunch of BS. Only people with insecurities, low self-esteem, people who don't love themselves will love somebody else because they don't know how. And that's the thing. If you can't love yourself, how can you love other people? Food for thought. Self-love is the foundation that allows us to be assertive, set boundaries, and create healthy relationships with others. Practice self-care. Pursue other interests and goals. Feel proud of who you are. Example. My boundaries with my friends are set and never change. Even my friends change theirs, but when my self-love energy lets them understand my thoughts process comes my decision for making me and only me and the value and respect. If you can't have a self-mind process, how people can respect you? How people going to appreciate you? How people going to value your decision making? How people going to value as a man, or as a woman, as a human? You know what I mean? How people going to, if you don't have the mindset? I look at myself every day. I look in the mirror. You know, people call me conceited. So what? I take the difference from conceited to being confident, because I love myself that much. That's what I do. And it's important that you love yourself too. Because without it, how the world gonna look at you? And that's what we're gonna end it off for today with. I'll be back on the next one. It's your boy Folarin Reed. Thank you, I appreciate it. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment. You know what I mean? And we'll pick this up on the next one. I'll see you. Be out. I forgot. My fault, my people. I got to get out the quote of the day. My quote of the day is: life is too short to waste time. Amount of time on wondering what people think about you in the first place. If they had better things going on in their lives, they wouldn't have the time to sit around and talk about you. What's important to me is not what other opinions of me. What is important to me is my opinion of myself. That's a fact. And once again, it's your boy Folarin Reed. Oh, the clothesline is official, y'all. I will be putting it on the next one. It's official. Folarin Wear is definitely in the building. I want to thank everybody who wants support. Make sure to like, subscribe, and comment. And I'm out of here. And I see y'all on the next one. Deuces.